Nikki Haley's presidential campaign bashed her GOP competitors, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy on Tuesday, accusing them of trying to copy former President Trump. Haley's campaign manager, Betsy Ankney, said in the memo that Haley has not been afraid to be open about the areas in which she agrees and disagrees with the former president, and that she is the only one who can defeat him and President Biden. Ron DeSantis and Vivek Ramaswamy fall all over themselves to copy Trump on everything from policy to his leadership style, Ankney said. The memo comes 2 weeks after the first Republican presidential debate in Milwaukee, in which Haley's performance received praise from many observers. She had several memorable moments during the night, including a clash with Ramaswamy over foreign policy and a branding of Trump as the most disliked politician in America. Her performance led to some Republicans seeking a path for bringing more women to the GOP. She has also stayed in the news following the debate, saying she does not expect the country to be willing to vote for Trump if he is convicted in any of the 4 criminal cases against him, and continuing to spar with Ramaswamy. Ankney argued in the memo that Trump is essentially running as an incumbent and has a lead, but polls in the early states still show most voters are looking for another candidate support. She said Haley is creating her own path with her candidacy instead of trying to follow what Trump says and supports. From DeSantis' territorial dispute comments to, well, everything about Ramaswamy, both seem to think copying Trump is the path to success. Meanwhile, Nikki is blazing her own path like she always has, the memo said. DeSantis, who like Trump has expressed some hesitancy about continued U.S. support for Ukraine in the war with Russia, referred to the conflict as a territorial dispute in March before walking his remarks back following backlash he received. Haley reiterated during the debate that the war is not a territorial dispute, while DeSantis said U.S. support for Ukraine should be contingent on its European allies increasing their aid for the Eastern European country. The memo notes comments that Haley made recently criticizing out-of-control spending from Democrats, Republicans, and Trump, and for a lack of moral clarity in dealing with China. Her opponents have done none of that. Some run as Trump light, while others throw rocks at Trump to win points in the media. All are wrong, all will fail, and all show a lack of leadership. Ankney said Nikki stands alone as the candidate with the backbone and vision to lead the Republican Party into the future. Quite a lot to unpack there. Well, the first part I can say is kind of funny, is where we get DeSantis and Ramaswamy fall over themselves to copy Trump on everything from policy to his leadership style. For DeSantis, that's especially true because during the debate, he made a point of telling Fauci, "You're fired," just like Trump did on The Apprentice. And many of Ramaswamy's actual policy positions are very identical to Trump's. He tries to say that, for example, he would get rid of the education department instead of putting his words, not mine, good person on top of it. I don't believe that at all. Trump said he was going to get rid of the education department. Reagan said he was going to get rid of the education department. Neither of those deranged dingbats did, and I don't believe Ramaswamy is going to either. So that's one area where he claims to be different. But if you actually look at what these people say before they get in office and what they do, I'm not falling for it a third time. It's really comedic that when we're kind of sitting here just reading this stuff, we get kind of these comments that I notice they have certain people have said them before, but they kind of catch on. So where she says some run as Trump light, I have to say that that's a kind of accurate description of Ramaswamy. I mean, his supporters will get mad, but they have a lot in common, and I don't think that there's a what's a good way of putting it? His increase in polling came right around the time where a lot of people caught on to the fact that he is someone who shares many of the same belief systems per his statements as Trump. I think that he wouldn't be doing anywhere near as well in this primary if he didn't have many of Trump's same positions. So I think he is arguably more than anyone else running as Trump light. While others throw rocks at Trump to win points in the media, I think they're referring to Christie there. But where they say backbone and vision with Haley, I find that really funny because when Haley got in, she was very reluctant to criticize Trump. He's a friend of mine, she would call him. And has in many instances refused to talk about certain things relating to him, like the E. Jean Carroll trial. She's been very lacking of a backbone on several things that have been asked of her relating to her main competitor. And as far as vision is concerned, what new thing is she talking about doing? Oh, term limits on politicians who would have no reason to vote to limit themselves in office. Yeah, that's going to pass. Oh, mental competency test for politicians over 75. Yeah, because the aging Congress is definitely going to approve making themselves go through some stupid test before they can run for office. Um, I just don't see what exactly this amazing vision of hers is. I guess you could say she's focusing on the deficit, but do you really think anyone who can barely afford their place, we was at 63% of Americans with paycheck to paycheck, do you really think anyone in that group is really sitting there going, well, I can barely afford where I live, but I'm really glad Haley is talking about reducing the deficit? No, that's why I said all the stuff that she's chosen to stick her nose in and like make a top priority issue that has become synonymous with her campaign is goofy. Even like the foreign policy stuff, someone like Rand Paul, who had a lot of interventionist positions that I agreed with, Haley's the opposite of that, where she is as confrontational as can be with many of these countries as a lovely neocon. So I'm really mystified as to what that vision is. I think the memo does a good job of attacking DeSantis and Ramaswamy, but it doesn't really do the best job of making Haley sound like someone who people should rally around and support. Like when you say, oh, she's the only person who can beat Trump and Biden. Well, according to what? The polling for her against Trump, again, there's other people involved, yeah, but she's trailing him sometimes by 30 points, 40 points. And then, Biden, I do think just on a instinctive level that she could beat Biden in a general election. But I think any of the Republicans, depending on the circumstances, could beat Biden in a general. I think Trump would have the hardest time probably because he's the only person that's lost before. But, I just don't see the case for her being this extremely distinguished person who people need to switch their support to. Now, she has risen in a couple of polls. That is true. But is that really enough for anyone who's like, very excited for it? Because DeSantis is still the number 2 guy, whether people want to say he's dipped or not. He has dipped. Is she doing anything to where I could see a DeSantis supporter going, oh, DeSantis was cool for a while, but man, Haley has really been standing. No. She had a good debate performance, some goofy things to focus on during her campaign, and I don't think it's going to be enough to take her beyond maybe New Hampshire. I think she'll probably get out before South Carolina as to not have the embarrassment of losing her home state. But, I could be wrong. I don't think I am, but we will see as this progresses. It's funny that they put out a memo like this attacking the other people who are all angling for number 2. Like Ramaswamy and DeSantis, whether you like them or not, they're still only at, a little bit over double digits. Trump is at 40, 50. So I said none of these people have any chance, because when you are running for office and you have a competitor who's polling above you by a giant amount, you have to knock that amount off. And none of them are willing to do that, because none of them are willing to go after Trump as aggressively as they go after each other. If I was Haley, Trump would have a daily cycle of attacks on him. You're the only person that lost to Biden, but you want to go up against him again. You said you weren't going to cut, so you don't want us to cut Social Security and Medicare, but then you proposed cutting that when you were president. You had this North Korea peace summit that went nowhere. I'd be laying it in because I actually want to win, but Haley doesn't really seem like she wants to win, and there are people who like cynically say the Republican debate was a vice presidential debate. Yeah, because this is what she looks like. When you have a person in first place and you can't criticize them, you look like you're angling to be their running mate, even though we know Trump's not going to pick her. But I don't get the logic of this campaign. I don't.